This is a follow-up on the 500 series washer and dryer. It's compact. The washer has been working great. One thing I should mention though is that we typically use the cotton normal setting because it's very specific. If you choose any of the pre-programmed options, you have to think about how much you're actually going to be putting into the machine. If it's a cotton normal setting, you can fill it up all the way, you know, the whole, well, pretty much all the way. So the drum, it can hold about 17.7 pounds when at a cotton normal setting. If you use these other settings, you pretty much have to go to half or a quarter of a drum, which is not ideal, I'd say, obviously. But it probably cleans certain things better. So usually what I do is I set it to cotton normal, and then if I know that I'm working on a permanent press load or something like that, I might, or something that needs a little more sanitizing, I'll set it to extra hot or hot for certain loads, and then colder for others. A couple ones like the rinse and spin can be really handy. If you wash something really bulky, you definitely want to use the bulky large items, but you only put in one item. Unlike some machines where you have to put in two items to balance out the weight, this machine just says put one item in. And I can tell you, I have washed this heavy-duty bath rug in there. I'd say it's not ideal to do that. It's probably, you know, borderline in terms of causing a problem. But it's been okay. You know, it's a little on the wet side when it comes out, but it's not too bad. I do not usually run it through the dryer though. I let it dry naturally. If I do have a problem with an item or items that didn't quite wash all the way in terms of draining out and being as dry as I'd like, I just do a rinse and spin, and then it usually takes care of those items. But anyway, it's been really great, and since I use a liquid washer, liquid detergent, I just use this setting, this area in here, the way it's set up right now. Also, you should try to leave this a little bit open when you're not using it, to allow everything to dry out, at least probably every few washings or so. In general, they say that you should be doing that for front loaders like this because you don't want to have a lot of mildew and things grow in there, and then it stinks. And then you may actually also want to run some vinegar in every once in a while just to get that clean, you know, make sure it stays nice and clean. The other thing I was going to say is you need to really look at these program tables. This is washer, this is the dryer, and make sure that you know which setting you're using for what you need, because like I said, it could be a quarter tank, it could be a full load, half load, so on and so forth. As far as the detergent, depending on what detergent you use, really the only thing that you need, I'm sorry about that, the line that you need to focus on is the very lowest line right there. That's all you need. You don't need any more than that. It would be a waste of detergent, and sometimes it's even probably too much depending on what you're doing. Also, because the washing machine has, it's a four-prong, or sorry, the dryer is a four-prong connection, so make sure that your outlet can either handle both four-prong and three-prong, or it's a four-prong outlet. The washer, unfortunately, is a 240 volt, so it's a European style, and you'd have to connect it to the back of the dryer, unless you choose not to get the dryer, and then you do have to get that electrical installation done. Okay, the other thing I wanted to mention, well, in general, the washing machine has been great. I love it. I love the settings on it. I love the fact that you can get it super hot, that it has a built-in heater. One thing you do have to think about is you can't have your hot water coming into it above 140 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm sure that they have reasons for that. But anyway, that's something to think about. And you should check your water pressure going in. So if I were you and you were thinking about getting it, I would definitely download the installation manuals before you make a purchase to make sure that you can, you know, fill all these requirements. And for the hookup in the back, I have the washing hookup here. The dryer could go in here, but the problem, and this is actually not hookup, sorry, drain. The problem I have with that is that it's actually a little too high for my dryer. I could cut the line, but I don't really want to do that. I mean, you know, it's kind of, anyway, but also I also wanted to be able to see how much water came out, and I'll show you how much water comes out. This is from probably doing one, at most 2 loads in the dryer. So you can see how much water, it's not really not very much. And my cord, you know, it's very long. I noticed that when I had it hooked in up here, that it would never fully empty. I could hear every time it started a new load, I'd hear the drain, you know, I'd hear water drain out. So I decided to go with the bucket and make sure that I have the line going in there in a way that I don't hear that anymore. It's the water just drains out at the end of the cycle. So it works really well for me. Unfortunately, I do have to eventually clear that, you know, get rid of that water. But I know that's not ideal for most people. So you either have to have a lower drain pipe or find some other option. My water, you know, washer and dryer, it's an older home, so the hookups for hot water and cold water are separate. And they're kind of old looking, but that's okay. All right, so then we go on to the dryer. The dryer is where I have some issues, and I would say for the biggest problem with the dryer is the maintenance in terms of what you have to do to maintain it. And there is an issue too with when you turn it on. Sometimes it beeps at you and you're not sure why. You put it on a setting and it keeps beeping. You open the door, you close the door, it still beeps. Sometimes you press low heat or you take it off low heat and it beeps. Eventually, though, it starts going, and I've read through the manual. It wasn't really clear about why, in my particular case, why it was happening, but I'm not worrying too much about it. It's working fine. As far as settings, cotton extra dry, permanent press extra dry with the dryness level of 3, and sometimes low heat is what I use. And I say that because I found that dries everything perfectly. I've tried other settings and they're just not quite as good. I mean, some of them are okay, but you still need that dryness level of 3. And sometimes I use the time dry variable, which is about 20 more minutes to give it that extra bit of drying time. So, as far as on the inside is concerned, I'm going to have to show you a few things that are really, this is the part that really is sad, actually. You can see, they do say in the manual that you should probably use a vacuum cleaner to get rid of all the lint that builds up. So this isn't too bad in here right now. But the part that's sad, I'll show you right now. So, make sure I get this in here right first. And then I'll start this up afterwards to let you see what's going on. Okay. Alright, so I knew from last video that I showed you that I was having a water leakage problem. And I would try as frequently as I could to check in here and make sure that water wasn't dripping, because usually I'd open and close and I'd see streaks of water running along here, possibly along here. So I decided, because I saw someone else had this problem where it was starting to lift, the surface of this starts to lift because of the water, and as you can see, it's done that on mine, even though I try to be careful. I'm not the only one who does the laundry, and sometimes I miss it myself. It starts to, it starts to get into those areas and then lift up, raise this surface, which was really horrible. They didn't do a very good job in choosing materials. They were trying to be a bit cheap on this insert, so that's just a warning. So I decided to tape it up with clear shipping tape. You can choose other things that you want to do. Maybe this won't work for you, but so far that's what I'm using. And here's another reason, another thing is you're going to want to have some kind of a little sponge, or maybe just a rag, any kind of, probably a sponge is too big, but a rag like this. It's a spongy kind of rag, because when you open this, mine might be dry right now because I cleaned it out recently, but see, this is how bad it is. Okay, so you'll get some lint buildup in here, and I just cleaned this before the last load. And I think I've only run maybe 2 loads since. You can see already I have a lot of water to soak up. And I just cleaned out this as well. So this is just typical. This is not anything, this every wash, it's going to do this. I don't rinse it out every single time, but as soon as I start seeing a big buildup, you'll know probably after about 4 washes, you're going to end up with this problem. Then you've got where the water will drip. This is so sad. This is why I'm kind of upset that we have this machine. But at the same time, I didn't want to have to worry about trying to find something else to fit in my space, and I really love the washing machine. So what'll happen is you'll close this. You'll open it up again. You're going to see streaks like this, and you just have to keep opening and closing until you get all those streaks of water out, because they're underneath here from having taken out the front unit here, the front piece. Then you can go in here, clean things up a little bit. And then let me show you when you pull this out, something else you're going to have to clean out. So you know that you're going to have to run, if you don't already know that, you're going to have to run this through. Right now it's pretty clean, but it'll get a lot of lint built up inside. And when it does, it needs to be cleaned out. They say once a month. So that's about when I do that. But you've still got something else that you're not thinking about and nobody mentions in the manual. And I'll show you that. Back here, I've cleaned it out. But if you don't clean this out, and I didn't clean it out for a couple months, and then I thought, why is it so dark back there? And then I shined my flashlight, and guess what? That whole back wall gets covered in lint. So really think about that. You know, this is something you're going to have to clean out. Use a rag, maybe you can do the vacuum, but it should be kind of dry by the time, you know, if you really want to use a vacuum. So that's just something to think about. So if you are fine with doing the maintenance, you understand that it's a little more work than your typical washer and dryer system. I mean, the washer is great, but again, for most people, this is probably not something you want to have to worry about. You're busy with your life and you have other things you want to worry about. And see, I'm going to have to keep pulling it out until I see that this gets clean and dry. And now it is, but I'm afraid that, of course, when I put everything back in, I should have done that first. just slide this back in. It's pretty easy. It doesn't take much work to slide it in. Then slide that in, close it up. And I probably will have a little bit more water. So I close that a little, but you can see that is such a pain. And if anybody has any better suggestions for how I could protect this front end, this little platform, it'd be great. Because this is kind of a pain. But for now, like I said, I just use this material here. Okay, I'm going to turn it on and show you. And then this needs to stay nice and clean and free of any objects, because this is where the air it was blown. So let me just show you kind of, here we go. So what I do, again, is the load that I have in here is mostly just cotton, you know, it's nothing special. There are some wool socks in there. It's not a big deal. I like to, right now, see, it's telling me that it's going to be an hour and 9 minutes. It's probably going to work just fine because I am doing a demonstration and I don't have anything in there. I mean, I didn't have anything in there earlier, but if you've been doing loads, it's possible that it will, it'll kind of beep at you. But let's just see. So, oops. So, I decided that I prefer low heat on this particular load because of what I have in there. You can, of course, set it differently, but make sure, like on the dry level, if you have it like that, you know, it's the lowest setting. You really want to have the dry level all the way to 3 if you want a fully dry load. If you don't want to hear the signal, I can't stand hearing the signal, you just turn it off like I did, and just, there you go. And of course it's working just fine right now, but like I said, sometimes it doesn't do what you want it to do and it just beeps at you, and you have to make sure the door is closed all the way. You have to make sure that the laundry is sitting just, you know, not blocking something, possibly. Maybe it's a sensor issue, I have no idea. Anyway, I hope that this follow-up video helps. Let me see if there was anything else that I haven't included. Right. I think I mentioned 140 degrees as the hottest setting you want. I think I've pretty much done it. All right, so if you have any questions, just go ahead and post them. Thank you.